Hey guys, it's Squishy here. We have another deck playthrough of our Fiora Zed standalone wins deck, and I have two decks to show for you guys. I have a quick match versus Warmother Control, kind of showing how quick our speed can be at shutting these decks out and being a really strong matchup for us, as well as a Lux Karma Control that I'll show after. Now, for both decks, we're aiming to finish before the turn 9. 9 is when Warmothers can activate its earliest, and without a deny in hand, it's almost a guaranteed win for them at that point because we can't keep up with the tempo of Trindamirs and Anivias dropping every single turn. Potentially, we have I'm going to say turns 9 to 12 because we might be able to stall enough to the point where elusives can sneak past them to still close out the games at this point, but we're still trying to aim to end the game by that 9 mark, especially versus Lux Karma Control, which we'll get to in the next VOD, because the Karma's tempo, once she's enlightened, is just plays so many spells that we just can't maintain a board state once it gets to there. Let's go ahead and head into the mulligans. So we pull our Zed, which is our best case scenario. He's our highest damage on attack minion we have. We don't have the standalone package, so we're going to be searching for that. We would consider the Relentless Pursuit. However, with us not having the attack token to start off with, it's not really a tempo play I want to play off of, so we need to find that standalone package first. Will of Ionia, we have no tempo play. We're more so trying to race down, so Will of Ionia is more of a card when we're trying to get into later stages of the game, like against other mid-range decks and aggro decks. And then Shadow Assassin is just a weaker Zed for us at this point. So all three of those are going back, and we're looking for that standalone Deny package, which we draw perfectly. And then to top it off, we also drop a Riposte, which is more reach for Zed in closing out this game, and protection as well. And then we even get even luckier here, and I actually draw a Relentless Pursuit to this is really the most perfect hand against one other control we could ever have. So first two turns, both me and our opponent are gonna pass quite quickly here. They're trying to build that 3 spell mana as well, so that they can either go into a Catalyst of Aeons to increase their mana by 1 to get to that 9 point faster, shortening my time of closing out the game, or they're banking mana for kill cards to clear our board so they can survive to that point. Now, our opponent makes a huge mistake here. Just trying to find it. And he plays his Catalyst of Aeons before I've even done anything. I have a full 6 mana. If I had dropped the Zed, I wouldn't immediately stand alone or respond with anything at this point, because with 6 mana, my Zed is at threat to be killed. But our opponent's misplay of Catalyst of Aeons heals for 0 with him already being at top health, and gives me the opportunity to end this game quite quickly. We're going to go Zed
without a sound
into a Relentless Pursuit, because at 1 mana, Freylord Shadow Isles has 0 ways of responding, at least with an empty board state. The only potential play at this point would be him Brittle Stealing him for 0 damage, but all it does is slow us down, and we're not actually in threat here, so it's completely worth committing the Relentless Pursuit to, and I'm pretty sure Warmother's Control doesn't run Brittle Steel. So Zed hits for 6 and gets a free level up, going right into our turn. Show off the crazy animation, because Riot slays at that. And then it's going to go immediately into our turn. Now, another key signature thing, because he had only 1 leftover mana so we can see the stats. At 6 mana, holy crap, there we go. At 6 mana, our opponent has no options for preventing this other than Flash Freeze. He could Flash Freeze to survive this turn. He cannot do the 3 drain which would get him to 3 HP, but would not kill our Zed. He cannot Vengeance because he's at 6 instead of 7. So the misplay from that, our opponent, Flash Freak or the Drain could have bought him one more turn, but that's an immediate one attack phase with Zed victory. Pretty straightforward. You'd be surprised at how often those happen from opponents playing those or playing a chump blocker which just slows us down by 1 to 2 turns or 1 to 2 attack phases. So if that was our turn 4 attack, so our turn 6 or 8 can, most of the times with that Zed we had riposte for the very next turn, so that would have been swinging for 20 and lots of damage from Zed, 40 damage in 3 turns with that perfect hand. We're going to be going into the Lux Karma control deck. This will be a little bit longer on this matchup, and I'm going to try not to overstate every scenario here, just because versus control decks, there is so many options that they have, and you can only bait so hard. So many people are trying to outvalue the other person. You're trying to get people to commit at this point. Now, the one key thing that I know that Lux Karma decks try to do is they try to hold their mana to 6, and then they drop the 5/4 or the 6-cost Demacia spell that happens to always draw the 5/4 Challenger Demacia unit, because why not? So they either do that, or they drop some type of chump blocker that they stand alone as well, whether it being the Enlightened Lifesteal unit or a Shadow Assassin, but both are a threat to our Zed. So I really wanted to play around the fact of potentially sacrificing our first Zed, or playing the first one and it getting being able to play Zed's other card. I should have sent this one back to search for a possible deny, but I was really banking on suiciding this first Zed to get the second one for standalone. But then I draw the next riposte, and I'm pretty sure that the first Zed isn't going to die, so now I have one wasted card. So kind of a fail in the mulligans. Both teams pass again versus control decks. I said that they will 9 times out of 10 bank until 6. We noticed versus the Ezreal Elnet control deck, they have the potential Avarosian Sentry drop, which Warmother's control can sometimes run as well. Anytime they drop that, it will slow down our damage but increase our tempo by so much, because we're able to freely play spells knowing that they don't have enough mana for kill cards for our units. So always a thing to be aware of is how much mana they have and what tools they have available to them. As of the Warmother's control deck versus Lux Karma is definitely a lot more threatening, because Warmother's only real big threat to us is the Vengeance, other than their game ender. A Avalanche or the 3-cross Drain card. I'll have the card up here on the side for you guys, but I'm drawing a blank. And the 1 damage to everything heal 3 really just attempt to slow us down, but with our burst cards, we have a tools to everything, so Warmother's control is a lot stronger matchup for us. Here we have to play around Will of Ionia greatly, because dropping a Zed on turn 3 when they have 4 mana and standaloning him, they can immediately send him back to our hand, and we've lost so much tempo when they only need to survive 2 or 3 more attack phases until they can close out the game. So we have to be very careful on our decision making here. He draws his chump blocker that we mentioned he would potentially have, and he's gonna play standalone immediately, which in my opinion is a misplay here. Him putting a clock on us isn't really necessary, because he's trying to draw out the game, and he could have kept that 3 mana to scare me a little for going into next turn, where he would have 7. But now I know he's only going to have 4, so Will of Ionia is the only scary threat from him next turn, or defending with Riposte, which I'll probably say 5 different times in this video in different ways and still misspell it or mispronounce it every single time. And you'll notice I saved at 3 mana just because there was no means of playing it last turn. That's one of the key things, especially when you're going against control decks, and one of the key designs of this deck is you never want to play something without intent. We're trying to outvalue our opponent, and that's how we win games. Me standaloning doesn't bluff, it doesn't accomplish anything except for having a scarier threat that I could just as easily do now, but bait one of his cards first. If he was standalone and going into his 4 mana, I swing and it immediately gets Will of Ionia, we're completely reset. Where here, I can play it and have the defense of knowing exactly what our opponent has before I play something. Now, yes, I played the standalone on our unit anyways, but I also played the top deck card, so our opponent, all he sees me is playing the top deck, which is information which a lot of players don't notice, but if you are noticing which spell or your opponent is casting, you can do a better job at guessing what they have. So I pretty much gave him 0 knowledge of me having another standalone, which I assumed this Zed would be sacrificed in this matchup, so I'm kind of saving this package off to the side. And then he goes for the chump block play, which I think is very poor for him because I think he should have blocked the non-quick attack one, and the reason being is I could have Twin Disciples here. I was afraid of Chain Vest, the 1 mana cost Chain Vest, but I did math wrong, and I thought that for some reason I had 8 attack instead of 9. I remember me calling myself a dumbass in this situation. So I ended up spending the Riposte, which I didn't need to, but guarantees that the elusive minion is dead anyways, and we get 6 damage on the board, which is really good for us. So he's going to play his Challenger, another chump blocker to slow us down, and I want to build up mana for my attack phase, so I'm going to pass with 5. Speed it up a little bit. He sends it back so he can get his mana, and I'm going to immediately go into swinging with Zed for 6. And playing standalone could have gave me an extra 3 damage on this Zed, but we have the quick attack to guarantee this is killed, so I really didn't want to commit, and I wanted him to waste a standalone, which I could Twin Disciples on the attack to still kill it, because the 4 would go to 7, and then we would have 9 attack to guarantee that this dies. And I wanted a full mana board so I could completely play around his cards, because we're still getting 6 damage on both attack phases in at this point. So our clock is looking pretty good for our opponent. We turn 6, 8, 10. We still have 2 attack phases, which will be us at our strongest and him at his weakest of defending until that enlightened state. Another chump blocker from him. I have no real threat to Zed as long as I keep the deny in hand, and I have the mana for Twin Disciples as well for combat, but for some reason I was thinking we were playing against Piltover, but we're against Ionia. The only thing that can scare us is Will of Ionia, which he would have played at this point. But we're holding the deny for that either way. So I opt for the card draw, and also puts us at lethal on next attack because we'll have him chump blocking 1 Zed. We'll now have 7 plus 2, 9 to kill. He goes for the card draw as well and the chump blocker for our elusive unit. And we're both going to pass. Okay, so big play for our opponent here on 7. He plays the Lux, and he messes around with combat a little bit before he makes the right move of taking out my Shadow Assassin and putting us on a clock with his Shadow Assassin with the elusive component. And I have real no way of killing Lux here, so taking health and risking our Zed is just wasted mana to me at this point, and we have a Spirit's Refuge now to refill our health bar if needed, so I just take everything to face. And at 4 mana, he has no means of extending his damage to kill us. Twin's Disciples or Riposte would only give him another 3, so there was nothing to be afraid of, no back-to-back shenanigans, which he could potentially have. So we're going to follow it up with a full mana swing of 10. I followed up into this turn before going into this with a standalone just to get us up to that 10 damage mark to guarantee that our clone would be in lethal range. And then I don't want to end this turn with zero mana spent. I want to start getting some kind of value over just drawing cards. So I play the Spirit's Refuge to top us back off to almost 20, which ideally I would have done before the swing to get that extra 1 HP, but versus these control matchups and the timers, there was a lot going through my head. And he's going to chump block. And then he's going to play the Remembrance that I was pondering denying here. However, the main reason why I didn't deny is because, one, it's not Will of Ionia, which is our only threat, and we have 2, but there's no point in denying something that doesn't pose a threat to us. This is only going to be a chump blocker for Zed that slows down our clock, which we don't really actually care about, and we can freely let him swing into us. And it doesn't get Lux at 6 because it was a reduced cost because 2 minions died at 4, so I wasn't worried of Lux leveling up, and what do you know, drew the 5/4 with Challenger. So I draw Shadow Assassin, play Shadow Assassin again to finish out, or to follow up to his board fill with the Enlightened Lifestealer as well. And then I still have 7, so I can spend the 3 on draw a card of Shadow Assassin and still have 4 for my deny protection. We're going to go ahead and pass that turn. He's going to pull damage into Zed. So the Twin Disciples is going to put him at 8, leveling up Lux. It still doesn't put Zed in a scary state. He cancels this attack because he wants to swing at Zed first with the slow speed. And I let it go through. Zed's still not in a... It doesn't threaten Zed, and I can follow up with this easy Brightsteel Protector and guarantee that the Challenger play is negated at this point. Then he goes and tosses me the round end, and I already committed barrier this turn, so I take a swing at Lux with the single combat, which he follows up with a barrier, negates the turn. However, now that my barrier is gone, potential misplay by me, but we have the mana to protect ourselves still. He pulls in the Challenger Zed, which we riposte, and clear that off the board, and still keeping my 4 mana for deny. Solitary Monk's pretty useless at this point unless we get he kills Zed somehow. And then we swing for 10. This was also an extremely dumb play by my opponent. because I have quick attack, so I know he's going to play some type of barrier play here. But if I had means around that, like judgment, then he would be completely screwed as means of regaining HP. But he doesn't care. He thinks he's safe with his barrier play. He has Cythera block our other Zed. And we have the 6 damage going into him, so we're just going to Twin Disciples to protect our Zed. Combat goes through. He heals for 6. But we still have... Zed is still lethal whenever he gets through an empty board at this point. And then he's going to try to do the Final Spark on Zed, which will Twin Disciples because obviously we can deny this 0 cost, but we don't gain enough from deny, where deny, its main target is Will of Ionia. That is what we're going for, or guaranteed removal of Zed. As long as we have Twin Disciples and Riposte to use on Zed instead, saving the denies is higher valued completely. We draw 2 Solitary Monks, so it's basically 2 dead draws for us. The only 2 in the deck, so pretty bad for us. And then we get the Bright Steel on our combat to swing at him for, what is it, 20, and then this was, I swang with both Bright Seals as well for 6, just in case these both got chump blocked, to put a 2-turn on him still. And then we kind of get lucky at this point, because the turn before, he hasn't drawn Karma yet. He must be only rerunning a 1 of or 2 of, because Karma at this point is his way of closing out the game, and we're on that last 1 or 2 turn attacks before, this is what, turn 11? So yeah, we're on our last attack pretty much of going at him before he can potentially close it out. And then again, he makes the misplay of blocking our quick attack unit and using Judgment, which we have the deny for anyways, but he should still be blocking a different unit to guarantee it, the health, in my opinion. Like, he's caring more about Lux being alive when Lux isn't really gaining him anything at this point. The Lux should be, and him should be swapped, because he's just needing to maintain his board alive. But that's just me. But we have the deny, which he follows up for deny, and because us saving the 2 denies, because the only thing we care about is winning the game, and Twin Disciples would do nothing for us here, which is super key. Deny is the only card that wins us this situation, and that's why we hold the deny for this situation instead of using it for those final spark moments. So we have the double deny play against his single deny because he's committing so much mana to Judgment. And then fancy animations time. Get the GG from our opponent. Now, it can seem that that matchup determined a lot by him not drawing Karma, since we were at our final moment of attacking there until he could have potentially out-tempoed us. And I did make the comment of him blocking at weird spots where he could have potentially gained more HP. But Zed was swinging for so much damage that it would not have bought him much time from those misplays. And whether our opponent drawing Karma or not is not really a win condition for us. We shouldn't be relying on our opponent to draw poorly. But that's why we keep that, holding those denies and using our other cards to save for that big play when we can finally close out the game is the biggest way of piloting through that matchup. Now, I know this is going to be a little on the longer side of the videos, but control is just a lot trickier and can take a little bit more time as it gets into the longer term. So Thank you for sticking with me if you did, and hope to see you guys on the next one.